Hello everyone, I'm Tom, this is Arnold.
Hello.
This is episode 4 of our little movie club chat. Films we're going to be talking about today are Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, Lux Æterna, The Righteous, Homunculus, Snowtown, also known as the Snowtown Murders, and Titane. First film is Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. This was directed by John McNaughton, written by Richard Fire and also John McNaughton, starring Tracy Arnold, Tom Towles and Micheal Rooker. So Arnold, what did you think of Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer?
For a low-budget movie, I thought it was pretty good. I really liked, especially the performances of Micheal Rooker as Henry. Yeah, it was just more or less a film with no sort of plot. It was just more of a fly-on-the-wall affair, and it was interesting to see these three characters and how they, talked with one another, how they got to know each other. You know, Becky looking for a sort of fresh start after a domestic dispute with her boyfriend, and Henry sort of looking at an opportunity of a new life. There's quite a lot to talk about, to be fair. I mean, it's quite a short film. I think it's only like an hour and 29 minutes, I believe.
Something like that,
Yeah. But it's not like well made or well shot. It's not like, it's just the idea of it, of a sort of serial killer, and just the general, look into a life of a serial killer in general. What about you?
I didn't like it really. I liked bits and pieces, but I'm not sure if it was like the expectations, because I'd heard about this film that
Yeah, that's sort of garnered like a cult following.
Yeah,
so.
You've got to sort of watch it, and it's one of those that everyone knows. But I just didn't really like it. I think it was more sort of, I was expecting something like Taxi Driver, which was more of like a character sort of film, and we get to know Henry and all that stuff. But it's really, in my eyes, it's just another sort of 80s exploitation film, which is a bit gory, it's a bit violent. It's
not probably really that gory, to be honest.
Yeah, but there's probably, it's not gory, but it has that sort of thing where it's shocking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and there is quite a bit of violence in it, and
especially with the opening sequence of the of seeing like various bodies around to sort of set the tone of the film and that. Now with Henry sort of talking about his mom, and we get a sort of ambiguous sort of impression of what really happened, because he says one thing, and I think Becky's brother mentions that he stabs her, but then Henry mentions that he shoots her, and we get this sort of we don't really know what is true or not, which I always thought was quite interesting, to be fair.
She hit me with a whiskey bottle. I shot her. I shot her dead.
I thought you said you stabbed her.
Oh, yeah.
There's a side that Henry wants you to see, and then there's a side we get to see, when he's out with when he's what's this called? Jail friend? Cellmate, that was it. With his cellmate, and it's weird really, because with Henry, which I like as well, there's a sort of human side to Henry, because, whenever, Becky's constantly being teased by this brother, Henry's always there to defend her in that, and it's like there's a sort of good sort of element with Henry. He's almost like the hero in the story in a weird sense, and the brother is the villain.
it's just kind of all these sort of moments have been done before in sort of better films, and I keep coming back to Taxi Driver with this, because that's how it feels. It's it's a similar sort of premise,
Yeah. Especially with what's the name of the character Rob De Niro plays in Taxi Driver?
Because Travis Bickle.
He's looking after the character played by Jodie Foster, the prostitute.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that relationship.
That's another thing.
And there's a sort of good side to.
Yeah, and that's where the whole because a lot of these sort of 80s B movies, they are just rip-offs of more successful films. If you know what I mean. So it's just I think the thing with this, it just didn't grab me. I just didn't feel like I was in the world of it, and it might be because so many years have passed. I think this is over maybe 40 years at this point. Because
this came out in 1986.
Oh, 86. So that's 30 odd years.
Yeah, 30 odd years.
So yeah, I maybe at the time it was, but I just didn't feel like I was getting anything out of it. I just thought it's like, and because eventually his roommate, I can't remember his name. Tom Towlers is the actor.
Yeah, I always keep getting his name.
He begins killing with Henry.
Yeah, he's encouraging.
And like, it's not completely impossible that serial killer would have like a friend who they rope into killing with him. It's happened in you know,
various
real
cases
life.
in real life.
Yeah, but it's just like in this film, it just seems a bit silly. You know what I mean? It just seems like he kills them Henry kills one of the prostitutes, and then he kills the other one. And the guy's like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? And
Yeah,
then,
he starts freaking out.
and then the next scene, they're just killing people.
Yeah, I think the scene that springs to mind is the bit where they go and get a new TV, and it's almost a bit comical because they've sort of placed the TV on the guy's head, and they start to stab. And it does seem it doesn't really the whole tone of the film doesn't really become consistent in terms of how serious it's tried to be.
I'd say the best thing about this film is probably Micheal Rooker's performance.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, because at the beginning especially, it's like he's like the fucking Terminator.
He plays it with such conviction. I think this film leaves it a lot more in terms of imagination, and I think that's what I like about this film necessarily. Like, I definitely get what you're saying in terms of sort of exploitation. Of course, yeah, the film is definitely designed to be shocking, and especially with that whole scene where they go inside that family's house, and you know they sexually abuse the mother and kill the father, and they kill the child for God's sake, you know. But I don't know. I think with the writing being so limited, I think the performance sort of is basically what makes Henry a three-dimensional character in a sense. I just really enjoy it for what it is. It's just the character interactions, but it just seemed like a real life sort of, you know, behind the scenes sort of thing of a serial killer. It's you know, in his natural element.
It's almost a portrait of a serial killer.
What did you think about the soundtrack?
Not good.
Not much.
Not good. It's just like, it's like with these, it's like, yeah, you have to sort of like go with how it might be sort of dated, and, and the music might not be, you know, what you'd expect. But we watched Anatomy of Extinction, which had not a bad soundtrack, but sort of a weird sounding soundtrack.
It served its purpose for the film.
with the weird synths and that. But this just felt like stock music that they took from well, they wouldn't have done like Final Cut, but you know, it's like it felt like stuff like that, and like some of the transitions between scenes. See, I don't want to just say I liked it because it was like violent, because there's violent films, and
the violence in the film, I was really kind of surprised of how kind of tame it was, because most of the deaths just involved just necks being snapped essentially. That's pretty much it. I mean, the only true sense of goriness we get is the death of the brother of Becky, which is a fatal stab in the eye, and then a couple of stabs in the chest, and that's it really.
Actually, I tell you what, I want to mention something you said about like the plot, because the way I saw it, you said like he's like the hero of sort of the piece, if you know what I mean. And it's like, I don't think that. I think like this Henry, a weird comparison. Henry's a bit like Mad Max, where like he appears, a story happens, and then he's gone, and he's just gone, and he doesn't care.
Next to the next wherever he
because the film starts, and you know his roommate's like, oh, Henry's stopping with me for a while because he's killed a bunch of people from this, and now he's here, and then he's killed a bunch of people, and then he'll just carry on. It's like, it's just like that sort of, I don't know, what point am I trying to make here? It's just, I didn't get that sort of hero's journey that you're talking about. It just felt like, you know, like I say with the Mad Max thing, it's like this is another story of Henry. So, which I suppose is an alright thing.
There's not really a good sort of like exploration in terms of how he sort of gets away. There's like a scene where he's talking to Tom's character, and he's like, killers never, the way they kill people, they never use the same weapon twice. And it's like, I kind of wanted to sort of know a bit more about that. We didn't really get a proper in-depth sort of look into that, really. It was just like, there's one scene where, he's with Tom's character, and they're in they're driving about, and they get out of the car, and they're like looking for someone to help fix the car and that, and they just shoot him, and it's just like, that's a bit too comical in my opinion. It's like, there's no sort of consequences or anything, That, I do admit, that's a pretty big problem in the film.
Yeah. It's just sort of...
Just they just kill.
Yeah, it's just that shocking thing.
Feel better? Yeah.
Maybe it's just what I thought, but it's like I wanted to have some kind of sympathy for Henry. I wanted some kind of, like, probably what you got out of the film. You know what I mean? I wanted to get to know Henry, even though he does these horrible things. I want to sort of understand that.
Because that's the problem. It's like you get an idea, but again, it's always too ambiguous. You see certain sides, and you're not too sure who Henry is as a person, and I think that's the main problem. So I like the general atmosphere of the film because it just looks like everywhere looks shit. That sort of period in the 80s where, I know it's a low budget film, but that sort of tendency to sort of romanticize sort of areas in general, look how beautiful Chicago is. But with this film, it doesn't even do that at all. It doesn't even glorify Chicago. It just looks like a general shithole. Where they live is like, it's just a general shithole as well. I don't know, it adds to it. The low budgetness adds to the whole sort of realism of what you get with Henry's portrait of a serial killer. And that's what I like about it. But,
I can see that argument that the lower budget makes it more realistic.
Yeah.
But I think maybe in some other films, maybe it's because I know who Micheal Rooker is. I mean, Micheal Rooker's in fucking Marvel, for fuck's sake.
I'm very popular, y'all.
So maybe it's got to this point where it's like, I know Micheal Rooker. Maybe if I had no connections to any of these actors, mostly Micheal Rooker, it's like, maybe I would have got more out of it, but...
It doesn't really matter, to be honest,
No.
It is what it is, really. But that's the beauty of films. Like, one person can get so much out of it. One person, you know what I mean? It doesn't really fucking matter. It's all good.
So is that it for
That's
Henry?
it.
Thank you. I watched The Righteous, written and directed by Mark O'Brien, starring Henry Kearney, Mimi Cusick, and also starring Mark O'Brien. The basic plot is you have a father, a reverend. His adoptive daughter dies, and then one day this guy turns up at his house and he's like, I've been hurt and I need you to let me in because I need help. And then the guy tells the priest that I'm actually here for you to kill me, and I'm he doesn't say it specifically, but he's basically, I'm the embodiment of your sins. And now this sounds all right, but to be honest, I did not like this one either, to be honest, because it's like, it's kind of low budget, and there's nothing wrong with low budget, but it's just, it feels very inspired by sort of Robert Eggers' style of directing, with that sort of like the lighting and...
Oh, is this like a recent film then?
Yeah, this came out in 2021.
Does God scare you more than the devil? Is that it? Yes! Why? Because!
There's like religious, themes and all that, but it's just not that good. It's just like the acting's all right. Mark O'Brien is actually like a quite a famous actor. He's been in a few things, but it's just not that good. It's a bit pretentious.
With a lot of the sort of imagery it's trying to convey.
It's convoluted. It's silly. It's but it has good reviews. Like if you look on like IMDb and all that stuff, it's like it has good reviews. But I just didn't get that.
What was so convoluted about the whole film in general?
Well,
the plot.
I'll spoil the film. So
Yeah.
If you don't want to know, then just
Skip the video.
I can't! You fucking can! You fucking will!
Reason why it's convoluted is because it turns out that this character is actually the son of this priest, because the priest had like an affair with, well, it's kind of implied that he raped this woman when he was younger, and because of that rape this child was born, and it turns out that he's his son, but also that this Mark O'Brien actually killed his adopted daughter by running her over, and it's like,
What?
so it's just too much. See, I wouldn't have minded the idea if like this guy turns out, if the guy turns up and he's like, yeah, I'm an embodiment of your sins, and because when he first arrives, they're kind of wary of him, but then they grow to sort of like him, and he sort of becomes like a lodger around the house.
Does it have like a montage sequence of them getting along or something?
No. It's just you just sort of
Goofy.
see, and yeah, it's just like I'd like that idea of like, yeah, he's come to him and like, yeah, I'm your judgment or whatever, so you have to kill me. And then there's a whole thing of like, if a priest kills, it's the end of the world, and at the end of the film he does kill him, and then like we just see like 3 meteors or asteroids, whatever the proper term is, and they're gonna hit Earth, and it's just like, what the fuck. Overall, Righteous, it's alright, but it's just too much too soon. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Be certain what you pray for.
So the next film I watched was Lux Æterna. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's directed by Gaspar Noe, starring Charlotte Gainsbourg and Beatrice Dalle. And the whole premise of the movie is essentially a production hell.
Je vais trouver un défaut et je vais la virer grâce à ça.
Pretty much then everything going wrong. You've got like a journalist trying to interview someone, you've got like some filmmaker trying to get actors to be in his film, you've got like a producer trying to get some guy to film Beatrice's character, just so, you know, essentially she can get sacked. You know, Gaspar Noe, he always has a great tendency to create chaos and sort of embrace that chaos in his films, and there certainly was a lot of that. Yeah, I thought it was okay, to be honest. I thought it was fine. Not as memorable as Climax, but, you know, you got to think those are 2 different films. I mean, definitely the same sort of style, but, you know, what did you think?
I thought it was alright.
Yeah.
You've watched this more recently than me. So
I did,
like,
yeah. I watched this last Sunday.
So I might not remember as much, but I thought it was good. It's just a nightmare of a fucking film.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I love the little, everyone's sort of seedy and everyone's sort of in it for themselves.
The general atmosphere of everyone's just not really into this sort of idea of this production. There's no passion. Everyone's just doing it because it's some sort of, you know, business opportunity for themselves. It's just all, you know, it's proper showbizy people, and I like that.
Yeah, Gaspar Noe, his films really make you feel uncomfortable.
Maman, s'il vous plaît, est-ce que quelqu'un peut les aider? Silence! Je t'en prie, je sais pas tout. Silence, je tourne!
I think the ending to Lux Æterna reminds me a lot of Inland Empire, because it's got, you know, a similar premise where it's sort of like behind the scenes and it's sort of a bit chaotic, and you know, as a similar sort of David Lynch, like you say, it's a very sort of intense sort of build up of what's going to happen. You don't quite know, and it's never what you kind of imagine it to be, which I really like. And I do think with when you sort of watch it again, you get a lot more out of it the second time round. So it's definitely one of those sort of films, I think. I do like the sort of like 2 shots going on at the same time, where, you know, you've got this going on, you've got this going on.
Yeah, it's weird.
That's cool. That's like a really nice artistic idea to have.
It's like, I can't remember if there's like a specific moment, but it's like we're following one character, but then these other characters are speaking about that character on that side.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's kind of like we're seeing like,
Yeah.
oh, it's good, man. It's really good. I think he does something similar in a film called Vortex, which was released this year, I think.
Vortex.
I like Gaspar Noe, the way he seems very sort of, he's just very artistic, man.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I mean, yeah, at the same time, you know, he might be a bit, you know, where do you draw that line between sort of artisticness and just being fucking weird?
One of my very favorite movies ever.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I do think that the director character, that is essentially Gaspar Noe, because you know towards the end where it's just like keep the cameras rolling, and obviously the main actress, you know, she's obviously under peril and she's obviously stressed, and you get a sense that, you know, no matter what happens, you sort of have to go with it. That's the sort of artistic intent, that, you know, you sort of have to embrace that chaos, and that is literally Gaspar Noe. It's almost like a sort of biographical sort of film. That's what I kind of get with Gaspar Noe and that film in particular.
The ending though, with the lights flickering, Jesus fucking Christ.
Hell, man.
Epilepsy, the fucking film, man.
You can kind of sense that, you know, a lot of the people in this sort of film had a really good time, because they've been given that so much freedom to sort of do what they want, especially with the sort of like, you know, improv and that. I could really get a good sense that even... It's weird because the film is obviously portrayed to be a sort of production from hell, but at the same time, behind the scenes of that sort of ordeal, it's like you can really tell that everyone's really into this, which is really, you know, it's really cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a credit to sort of his directing, because I mean, the three films I've seen by Gaspar Noe, it's just like, you know, he's so good at that chaos and that sort of performance where it's like real performances, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I really do like Gaspar Noe. I know he's a fucking... Some of the stuff that is in... Because the longest film I've seen of his is Enter the Void, and there are some questionable things in that film. So, that's something to look forward to. The next film is Titane. This film had me perplexed through the majority of it, because it's such a strange film. And I don't mean that in sort of a surreal way. It was just like, how did we get from this to this, and now this, and then that? It's so strange. But I won't tell you the entire plot. I'm gonna try. Actually, I might not talk about this for too long, because I do want to keep a lot of this sort of... So, no spoilers whatsoever, no real plot details, but I will tell you this basic premise. So our main character has a car accident when she's a child. Due to that car accident, she has a metal plate put in her head. Skip to the future where she's grown up and she's in her 20s and she's become a serial killer. And then after what appears to be a dream where she's having sex with a car, she realises that she has become pregnant, seemingly from this car. And that's the basic plot. And there's a lot there's a lot more to that. Which is which you wouldn't expect, and that's why I think, because I do recommend you should watch this, and anyone else who wants to watch it. When it takes that turn into something else, it's like, what? Like, this is completely out the blue. This is completely like, it's like, it gets to a certain point in the film, and I think when I was watching it, I was like, even with that sort of weird, a car's got a pregnant sort of thing, it's like, even then I was kind of like, I think I know where this is going.
But it takes a left turn.
And it goes somewhere I wasn't expecting. It almost feels like it's a very, very, very dark comedy, where it's like...
Sound like it.
It's like blacker than space dark comedy.
Okay.
But I think, I do think, and this is what I mean when it's like playing with emotions, it's like, I feel like there's something in here which is like about family acceptance and maybe grief and maybe dealing with abuse and
I think I read a little plot. I think I know what happens in that film now.
Well, don't say anything.
I won't.
And it's just like, I think maybe there's some kind of like something to do with sort of gender roles as well.
Oh, okay.
And you know, what we're supposed to be doing as men or women. But I do think there is a lot going on, and it's told within this sort of surreal plot. I loved it, to be fair. I really did love it. Like I say, it had me perplexed the entire way through, but I think I enjoyed it.
But in a good way.
Yeah, and like I say, I think I loved it, like, because I could watch it again and be like, what is this? But very good plot, very good sort of themes.
Sounds exactly like what I wanted Jumbo to be. That French film.
Oh yeah, yes, very close to Jumbo actually.
Yeah. Because Jumbo is more or less a sort of, a family drama, whereas this is a bit more of an extreme in terms of what actually happens, like you mentioned.
I think...
yeah, it is a family drama, I imagine so. But,
think, it can be a family drama, but just more... It's like in my head now, this is what I love about films, when like they just... Images and scenes stick in your head, and like I can see the end of the film. Like, I can see the last shot in my head right now.
Do you think Titane is much better than Jumbo?
Yeah. I quite liked Jumbo. I think that's quite...
Was there any elements from Titane... Actually, was there any elements in Jumbo that was better than Titane, would you say? If you could think of any example without being
the
too...
films are quite similar when you think about it. But I think this deals with less romance than sort of Jumbo, but it has that same sort of thing. Jumbo, it's a sort of a realistic sort of thing, but it has this surreal plot. To drive us forward. But yeah, I'll leave it there because I can't really say much without.
I'll definitely watch it for sure.
But yeah, Titane, man, I fucking loved it. This next one is Homunculus, but because I'm an idiot, I forgot to press record on the camera. So this next bit's going to be audio only, so do apologise for that, but take it away, Arnold, in audio form.
So I watched a film called Homunculus. It's a Netflix film. It was adapted from a manga. I think it came out last year, I believe. And it's directed by Takashi Shimizu, starring Go Ayano and Yukino Kishi. And overall, I thought it wasn't... The first half of the film, really, really good, but you got to think how much is lifted from the original content. But obviously, Netflix, it's a very sort of safe company where you can tell, as usual, there's lots of interventions, and there's like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Ultimately, completely ruining the original source material, and you don't really get a true sense of what this film really is in terms of the characters. I'll give you a sort of plot summary. It's about a homeless man who lives in his car. It's a medical student who offers him money for an experiment. It's called trepanning. It's essentially drilling a hole in the skull, and he's trying to test that theory that when one can drill a hole in the skull, you can start to see things. Particularly the subconscious of people as they walk by, and their manifestations is represented by a childhood trauma, which is a great concept for sure, man. I think the first half, it's like once you have that sort of why is he homeless? And we eventually find out there's a lot of sort of like questions. There's a lot of intrigue. It's the way it's set up. It's very engaging. Makes you want more. I don't want to talk about it too much because I do think you should see this. Mm-hmm. It is worthy of watching, just because there's some amazing visuals. But yeah, it's just essentially after the main character, the homeless man, gets experimented on. There's a scene where it's pretty much reminiscent to the film They Live, where he's in pretty much like a sort of public area. And he starts seeing these manifestations of all these people, like I said, based off childhood trauma, and they see like a guy covered in sunglasses, and like that's all like sort of like a bit like They Live, where it's like it's really exciting visually, and it's like that's so well done. Now this is where it gets interesting because this main character, the homeless person, he meets these various people. And they all have these, these sort of things that sort of define them, who they are. Like he meets a leader of a Yakuza gang, and it has this scene where I think he bumps into him accidentally, and the Yakuza leader, obviously is very upset, and he wants to teach him a lesson. And for some reason, this Yakuza leader has this weird tendency to cut off, fingers, particularly the little finger. and then suddenly sort of transforms into this robot, like a bit like a transformer, really. And I think his head sort of reveals that the helmet is to be a little boy, and like that whole segment, basically coming to terms with this sort of childhood grief, basically involves a little fight he had with his little mate when he was a kid, involving a robot and a knife. Hence why we get the little pinky thing going on. But that whole bit is so well done. I was absolutely enthralled. It's just a roller coaster of emotions. It's like for a Yakuza, leader, there's a sense of like, he's just much as a victim as he is, just like the homeless person. And but up until that point, the film takes a weird turn, and it completely assassinates the main character. And
you mean like literally?
No. Figuratively. Yeah. So he encounters a schoolgirl, and her main issue is, insecurities. She self-harm, and there's a scene, and it's just like so out of character with this homeless person. It just completely ruins the film. And like what he does to this schoolgirl is like, what the hell? Like, the weird thing about that film in particular is the fact that what he does to this schoolgirl, and the fact that the film still makes him out to be the hero that you want to root for, is so poorly done in bad taste. Like, it completely ruins it, and it's just like, how do I even take this film seriously anymore? Which is such a shame, because it had a lot of promise. Another thing as well, it's like, it's a whole, going back to what I said with the whole, like, Netflix interference, and it's the whole, like, yeah, in the original source material of the manga, he's a bit more, a bit of a grey character. He does questionable things. Whereas in this film, he does one questionable thing, and then we don't look at it again. It's never acknowledged. It's never there's no consequences to face with this character. It's just, this thing happens, move on, and then something else happens. And it's so weird. I don't know what Netflix was thinking. And this sounds really vague, but I'm hoping whoever watches this film will understand. But yeah, it's weird, because the character, he's all right, but it's just, what he does. And I think the ending of the films is okay. A bit rushed, I think, because it's off a manga, and I don't know how long a manga series is, but you can sense, I mean, the film is essentially, I think it's like 2 hours, I think, 2.5 hours, but like, you can sense that they're trying to put everything in. Some of it sticks, some of it doesn't, and it's like, you do get this sort of pretty incoherent mess. And I think it kind of shows with the ending, where you have that sort of, realization of like, why does he have, I failed to mention that he has amnesia, so we don't really know why he's homeless in the first place until the revelation at the end. Yeah, it's just, with the ending, it's like, it's very well done. The soundtrack's okay at times. It does certainly serve its purpose. Yeah, it's just frustrating, because I want to love this film, but at the same time, it's just got so many problems that a part of me wishes that Netflix hadn't have touched this in the first place. A part of me wishes, in fact, that it should have been a TV series, in order to sort of fit everything in. But yeah, that's Homunculus.
Homunculus.
This next film is The Snowtown Murders, also known as Snowtown. This was directed by Justin Kurzel, written by Sean Grant, starring Lucas Pittaway and Daniel Henshaw. This is actually based on the real story of John Bunting, who was a serial killer in Australia. Daniel Henshaw, who plays John, I just got to say, the first thing I got to say, his performance is unbelievable. So perfect. Because he like, it's kind of weird, because he hunts down like paedophiles and people like that, but then it sort of extends into just being homophobic and being against people who are addicted to drugs. And it's like, but his performance, he's so certain that what he's doing is right, that you can see in his eyes.
Yeah.
There is no remorse, there is no regret. He believes what there's a moment which is so sort of horrific, where they're basically, the kind of a spoiler, but they're killing a man, but they're almost playing with him. Like they're taking it so far before he actually dies, and it's so horrific. But the way he's looking at him, the way John Bunting's looking at him, well, I say him, the actor, there's nothing there. He doesn't feel sorry for this man. He doesn't feel anything like, and in a sense, like these people who are paedophiles, they're monsters.
Yeah.
But he is a different kind of monster. I can't like understate like or overstate, however I'm supposed to state, how good his performance is.
Yeah.
It's so real life.
Go on, mate, shoot it.
I love the tone of the film and the atmosphere. Do you know who Shane Meadows is? This is England.
He did. Yeah.
This is England and stuff like that. It's got. I don't know which one came first. I didn't look it up, but it's got that sort of style where like you can tell some of the performances are improvised, and it's just brilliant. This sounds funny, but this is exactly what I wasn't expecting from Henry. But this is what Henry should have been like, like where we see this character and what they're about and how they manage to convince people that they're a nice person.
Yeah.
But they're a monster. They are unbelievably a monster, and it's like they all get together and like there's some people when the sort of community's together and they're like, oh, that guy down the road, he felt up her down the road, and like you can see his eyes just like, oh, who was that? You know, who was that? Where does he live? And it's just you can see that plan forming in his head that he's gonna go around there and just kill him, and it's like, you know, there's more. It's so good. It's so good. It is a bit graphic. Well, it is a lot graphic, but it draws that line of like just enough where it's just like, all right, I can't take anymore. It doesn't go that far.
You ever shot a gun before? Feel good? So why not do something about it?
The script is perfect. Like, well, nothing's perfect, but it's close to being fucking perfect because the way information is given to the audience is just everything you think, like, what does that mean? Like, why does that come up? But then you might not find out what that is until the end of the film.
Yeah.
But like, that's not with everything, but it's just like, if you've been paying attention and if you know what's going on,
it's explained organically.
Yeah. It's like nothing is just thrown out there.
Yeah.
Like I started it and I was like, what? I wasn't like, what's going on? But I was like, this is a bit sort of like, I've just seen this happen. So what does that mean for this? But then you find out like, I won't spoil anything. I will try and keep it pretty sort of under wraps. And I've gone on about Daniel Henshaw's character of John Bunting, but also Lucas Pittaway, who plays Jamie, who's kind of like his sort of surrogate son.
Yeah.
I will tell you one little thing, just to show you how detailed this is, because there's a moment where John and Jamie both shave their heads completely sort of bald. It's quite similar to that scene in This Is England. And they shave the heads, and then throughout the film they grow the hair. But then there's one scene where we see another kid with a shaved head, and then we see John and he's got a shaved head, and it's like, is that sort of like an initiation of like trying to get more people into his little gang?
Oh, I see.
And it's just like everything sort of has a meaning. Going back to sort of Lucas Pittaway's character of Jamie, it's like there's definitely, there's definitely abuse there, because we see it, but they're just seeing something socially wrong with this kid, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this John sort of preys on him. But yeah, I'll leave it there because I don't want to spoil anything too much. But
is this an American film?
No, it's Australian.
Oh, okay.
And it is based on a book, so I don't know what is real and what isn't. I mean, John Bunting is a real person, but honestly, if I do have to say one sort of thing, is that, and this is literally only me not trying to just say the film's fucking perfect, because like there does seem like a tiny element where it does get a bit too miserable, if you know what I mean. It's just like, right, this happens. Oh fucking hell, this is happening now. You know,
it's sort of taking its toll on you.
Yeah, but it's just like sometimes it's a bit one too many things, but that's honestly me picking at it. Like, it is superb, and like I say, it's graphic. There's some moments which are a bit much, and there's some moments where they're just like I say, horrific.
Is it a bit like how in Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, that you get it's sort of what's the word? Like an indication of why. It's not sort of clearly expressed as to why he wants to kill these type of people, but it's just more of like, oh, okay, maybe something happened.
I feel like there's more depth. There's more. A man like that, like unless they were just born
inherently evil.
Yeah. Like a man does not turn into that. It's just the way. I don't know. It's like acting, but I can't like. You should watch this. Fucking watch it. Watch it when
intrigued.
you should watch this as soon as possible, and you'll know what I mean when you see his face. And he's doing horrific things, but there's nothing there.
No emotion.
There's no emotion.
Almost like a shell.
Yeah, and there's even like there's subtle bits as well where they're towards the beginning of the film where he first starts to interact with the family, like when he throws they throw like a dead deer at the neighbours. The neighbour who's abused the sons.
Yeah.
And like just that look on his face, it's like he fucking hates this guy. These films are the type of films that honestly I love. Like, I really do love them. I love when films are realistic and they feel like, well, they are real people, and it's like the Shane Meadows sort of thing. There's the Pusher trilogy.
I've heard about that.
Feels very realistic. Well, a lot of that director of the Pusher trilogy, a lot of his films do feel sort of realistic in a way. But yeah, just really, really, really love this film. It's just unbelievable. I can't say any more good things about it because it's one of the best. I say this in terms of like technical ability and the film and all that. It's one of the best films I've ever seen. It's graphic. It's a bit much. You know, themes of child abuse is never sort of easy to sort of watch.
But everything it does is justifiable in what it's trying to convey.
I mean, I can't. Like, I want to tell you, like, the reasons why the script is
watch it, man.
Yeah, trust me. But just, like, the performances, brilliant. The script, brilliant. The way it's filmed, brilliant, man. Everything I love about it. Right, so that was episode 4. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in episode 5.